Actors, this is your final places call. Places. House to half. Go. Orchestra stand by. Go.
Hey guys, this is Gabrielle Ruiz.
Rick Negron.
And Harada.
Karen Mason.
Constantine Maroulis.
JLA Marcos. And you're listening to
Bite-Size Broadway. Brought to you by Indie Works Theater Company.
Bite-Size Broadway.
A musical snack that keeps you coming back.
Bite-Size Broadway.
Get your day started right with an opening night.
So open your ears and get ready to go to a full mini musical inside your phone. From Bite-Sized Broadway. Now on with the show.
Hi there, my name is Jonathon Lynch, and you're listening to Bite-Sized Broadway, a mini musical podcast brought to you by Indie Works Theater Company. This is your source for discovering original short-form musicals that you can listen to anytime, anywhere. Which brings us to our premiere episode, The Getaway, with book and lyrics by Jared Korak and music by Joshua Sardenia. We'll be having a talk back with them after the show, so be sure to stick around after the credits. And hey, just a heads up, this episode contains a few instances of language that might not be deemed appropriate for our youngest listeners. Listener discretion is advised. It's a crisp fall morning in New York City, and a former cab driver is about to start his first day driving for Uber.
Good morning, NYC. It is 6 a.m., which means it is time for you early birds to get that proverbial worm. Traffic is a bit backed up this morning after a distracted BMW bumped into a bakery delivery truck, sending bagels barreling down to BQE. The delivery driver apparently lost everything, but don't worry, the sesame and poppy seeds are just fine.
Sunrise on the expressway, barely a new day, and already some pricks fancy car caused a jam. Probably chatting on Bluetooth, blasting some YouTube, texting his brokerage firm buds, and then bam! God, people confuse me. Sorry, excuse me, but everybody's in some kind of rush. Go, go, go. They'd sooner zoom by ya than even say hi ya. Their nose on their phone, foot on the gas. No, no, no. Slow down, I can't keep up. Always feel like I'm late for something. And maybe I'm stuck in the past, but I keep my seatbelt fastened, cause everything is moving too fast.
Bueno.
Hola, mi amor. I've got you on speaker. Did I leave the coffee pot on?
I don't think so, mi amor.
Will you check? I'd feel better if you checked.
You sound stressed.
I see. I just thought I'd be done with first days at my age. It's not gonna be like driving the cab, Marty. I mean, this app has a rating system. It's no joke. You drop below 4 stars and you are out. No questions asked. Things used to be easy, business was breezy. You could pick up a fare from thin air, make a buck. Someone waves and yells taxi, and they hop in the back seat. But now it's all algorithms. What the fuck?
Hey, language!
Maybe I'm old-fashioned, or maybe I'm just stuck in the past. But I keep my seatbelt fastened, cause everything is moving too fast. I'm dreaming of a getaway.
The getaway again.
That's the only way I can get through the day. A getaway. Somewhere we can go, where the living's slow. Maybe Saint-Tropez, sitting by the sea, sipping French Chardonnay, or a Swiss chalet. If you don't mind the snow, we can finally go. Away from the noise and the garbage, away from the cracks in the street, away from the constant commotion, far, far away from here, away from the rush hour madness, away from the traffic and heat. We'll keep saving up till we get away, where the living is slow. Honey, what do you say?
Maybe we'll get there someday. Don't pick up any crazies, okay?
Hi, it's New York City. No promises.
Te amo.
I'm stuck in my old ways. I miss the old days. In my cab with the flash dancers ad on the top. Now it's getting rusty and the dashboard is dusty. Who knew the whole taxi market would flop? So I'm spending my whole day in an ugly old space gray Uber approved Subaru SUV. Going tap, 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 tap on some newfangled app. Feels like crap, feels like sleeping with the enemy. Slow down, I can't keep up. Always feel like I'm late for something. Maybe I'm stuck in the past, but I keep my seatbelt fastened, cause everything is moving too fast. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, or maybe I'm just stuck in the past. But I keep my seatbelt fastened, cause everything is moving too fast. Carajo!
I'm walking here, like, currently at the right.
All right, Uber. Let's see what you got for me. Come on, Petey, you got this. Everything is moving too fast. Everything is moving too fast. Everything is moving. All right. Let's go get some money.
Where is he? Where the hell is he?
I don't know.
We're like sitting ducks out here. He said he was gonna be right outside, and I don't see anybody. Where is he?
I don't know. Maybe he got cold feet.
Cold feet. Cold feet! I knew it! I knew this guy wasn't wearing any socks.
What?
When I first met the guy, I looked down, and lo and behold, he's not wearing any socks. And I'm thinking, you can't trust a getaway driver that doesn't wear socks, because they'll screw you over with their cold fucking feet!
Will you get it together? I called in a plan B.
Oh, yeah? And what the hell is a plan B?
Did someone call an Uber?
Desperate times.
Wow, that alarm's annoying, huh? This city just doesn't shut up. Oh, there's little waters in the back if you're thirsty, and I've got some gum and Starburst up here if you really would like to try.
Drive!
Okay.
Crime Stoppers. Police are on the lookout for two individuals who mere moments ago robbed a midtown bank. They were last seen leaving the bank.
Change the station, please. I don't like the news.
I don't blame you. So negative these days. Oh, how about some jazz?
Take a left.
But the GPS says...
I know what the GPS says. It's a shortcut. Left.
Are you sure this is...
Left. Right.
Left!
No, right.
No!
It's a one-way...
If we can make it through the midtown gridlock, move undetected through the city streets, swerve in and out of every roadblock, it'll be the perfect getaway.
If we steer clear of a downtown showdown, groove to the music of the city streets, skirt right around with any slowdown, it'll be the perfect getaway.
Keep your head down low, or odds are getting better one street at a time. If your accomplice doesn't show, you can take an Uber from the scene of a crime. If we can make it to our destination,
lose any cruisers hanging on our tail,
we'll be on our way to the best vacation, the perfect getaway.
You two getting out of town?
What?
I noticed the duffel bags. Going on vacation?
You ask a lot of questions. You a cop?
I've been planning a big trip myself. The perfect getaway.
What's your name, guy?
Peter. Friends call me Petey.
As in NYPD?
Huh?
Nothing. Hey, are you wearing socks right now?
Oh, jeez.
It's important.
If I can make it maybe one more year and save every penny made from every right, make sure that all my debts are clear, then we can make a perfect getaway.
If we can drive till we disappear and brave another minute of this wild ride, make sure the coast is crystal clear, then this'll be the perfect getaway.
Oh, looks like some police action ahead.
It's the fuzz.
Hello, officer.
Road's closed. You'll We'll have to go around.
No problem, officer.
You have a nice day now.
Okay. You too.
Plan B's going great.
It was either doing this or doing time.
If your getaway driver's late, you can take an Uber from the scene of a crime.
If we can make it to our destination,
Lose any cruisers hanging on our tail.
we'll be on our way to the best vacation, the perfect getaway. A perfect getaway. The perfect getaway. All right, folks, here we are. You sure this is right? This warehouse looks abandoned.
It's perfect. Get your stuff and let's go.
I'm coming.
So, I've never done this before. Do you give me cash or...
He knows?
Shut up. You want a cut?
Cut, tip, whatever you want to call it. I'm new to this whole thing, so I'm just not really sure how it all works.
Is he hustling us?
I don't know, but he saved our asses, didn't he? I'll leave your tip in the back for you. Okay?
Okay, sure. Whatever you want to do. Hope you enjoyed the ride. By the way, 5 stars, all right?
This guy's nuts. Respect.
Hey, lay low for a while.
Yeah, you lay low yourself. Is that what the kids are saying these days? Lay low for a while.
Crime Stoppers. Police are still on the lookout for 2 individuals who robbed a Midtown bank this morning. They are described as a Caucasian man and woman in their mid-20s.
Huh?
They were last seen leaving the 50th Street branch of Bank of America on foot.
Oh my God.
But authorities say they may have left the scene in a taxi or an Uber.
Oh my God.
If you have any information on the individuals, please call Crime Stoppers at...
What do I do? What the hell do I do? I have to scrub the car for prints? Right. Bleach, maybe. Yes, that's what I have to do. And, oh no. They left the bag. They left the freaking duffel bag. This is proof. This is evidence. This is a bag full of unmarked bills? Oh, this is bad. This is very bad. This is... Would it be wrong to pretend like this just never happened? Would it be wrong to go home and forget the whole thing? You know they say that ignorance is bliss. So I'm happy to go and forget all this. Would it be wrong? Would it be wrong? Would it be wrong to say screw it and spend all this money? Would it be wrong to say screw it and live like a king? Would it be wrong to say to hell with the banks? Accept this deposit and simply say thanks. Exchange it for pesos or euros or francs.
Hola, mijo. How's your first day going?
How about that getaway? Why should we wait? Should we waste one more day? Come on, let's get away. Somewhere we can lay low. We can finally go by that Chevrolet.
What got into you?
Keep driving west till we hit Monterrey. I mean it, get away. Keep on driving till we blow across the border of Mexico.
Oh, baby, Saint-Tropez.
I can see you by the sea, sipping French Chardonnay.
Or a Swiss chalet.
If you don't mind the snow, we can finally go. Pick a place or fly there tomorrow. Grab a map or point to a spot. Everest or Kilimanjaro. Anywhere other than here. We can hail a boat in Havana. Sail the world in somebody's yacht. Safari in the Kenyan savannah. Sample the sights in the global buffet. Things are moving so fast, but it feels damn good at last. I was stuck in a bad situation, but you showed up and showed me the light. Drove me right into true liberation. So we were out of sight. Who knew Uber would be my salvation? Now I'm free and I'm feeling alright. So pack your bags for a luxury vacation. Of the day, things seem to work out okay. The perfect getaway.
Shit!
That was The Getaway. Book and lyrics by Jared Korak, music by Joshua Sardenia, starring Rick Negron as Peter, Johanna Carlisle-Zepeda as Marie and Bank Robber 1, and A.J. Holmes as Bank Robber 2, with Andy Roninson as the radio announcer and Lance Roberts in a brief cameo as the officer. Some of our listeners may remember Andy Roninson from his podcast Take a 10 Musicals, which was a big inspiration and paved the way for our podcast here. It was an honor for us to have him on the show and an exciting little nod to have him as the very first voice you hear. Thank you, Andy. The Getaway was recorded remotely from New York City and directed by Christopher Michaels, with music supervision by me, Jonathon Lynch, and orchestrations by Andrew Fox. We'll be right back after this brief intermission where we sit down with the writers to discuss The Getaway, writing in the BMI workshop, and the work that went from New York Times best-selling book to New York Times Critics' Pick musical.
Hey there! Enjoying the show so far? Want even more out of your bite-sized Broadway experience? Get full-color digital playbills, early singles and episodes, and exclusive backstage access to other exciting rewards and extras by becoming a Patreon subscriber. For as little as $3 a month, you can unlock perks you just won't find anywhere else. We're giving you a peek behind the curtain to see just what goes into making a mini musical podcast, plus a chance to speak directly to the artists in monthly AMAs. Oh, looks like Act 2 is about to start. Visit patreon.com/bitesizebroadway to find out how you can become a subscriber today. Sorry. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Welcome back. Make sure you unwrap your candies and make your way back to your seats, because it's time to sit down with Joshua Sardenia and Jared Korak, the writers of The Getaway. Before we begin, I just want to say that, so I've got a 5-year-old kid, and anytime that I tell her that I'm working on the podcast and I'm getting the work done, she looks at me and she goes, "Getaway," and like her really cute 3-octave above mine voice. So you've made a big impression there. Probably going to be hearing about it for years, so thank you.
That's a big compliment.
Huge. Yeah. Great. So, Jared, you are calling in from Brooklyn. Joshua, you are calling in from the Philippines. Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
How did the two of you meet and start working together?
We started working together in the BMI workshop, the BMI musical theater workshop, which Jonathon, you're a part of as well,
yeah.
Right? Yeah, so it's like it's a 2-year program for emerging musical theater writers to kind of hone your craft and your skills. And the first year, you have various assignments and you're paired with different writers. So you come in as either a lyricist or a composer, sometimes both, but usually you're being paired up with different composers every week if you're a lyricist, which I was. And The Getaway was actually our final project for the first year, which is to write an original 10-minute musical. And Josh and I paired up for that. And
it was either random or not so random. I'm not actually sure. Like the pairings.
Yeah, I remember in the
idea?
workshop we were always questioning, we got to sign for the Blanche project together. Did they mean to sign the two of us for this? Like, what's going on? Was it random?
Right, exactly. Behind the scenes, pairing people that they thought would work well together.
Yeah.
Which we did, I thought, and it was really great working on that. And I remember they gave the assignment like it was months in advance, and we kind of started talking about what we might want to do, but none of it actually got written until like a week before the performance.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like a lot of brainstorming and then a cram session basically.
Yeah. Like we knew what we were gonna do. We kind of both knew we wanted to do. Like I knew I wanted to do. I was just like one day I was just like, hey, what do you think about doing something about an Uber driver for like no reason? I just thought it might be fun.
Yeah, I think we found a news story that was about an Uber driver who was involved in some sort of like heist or crime or something like that, and that I think Josh found that, and we were inspired by that. And I also had been reading about just how the taxi industry in New York had been affected by the rideshare services, Uber and Lyft, and sort of just like took a huge chunk out of that industry, which already was suffering from like major financial hardships, because like a taxi medallion in New York is just so unbelievably expensive. So we sort of like took this like very silly idea of the Uber heist, and then we wanted to pair it with like something a little more topical of like what would someone who is a veteran New York City taxi driver be doing in the world of the Ubers and the Lyfts.
Do you find like for your own projects, this is typically sort of how the inspiration comes about, that you sort of think, oh, like here's a really cool article that I found, or like here's a topic that I'd want to write about, or even like I want to write a cool jazzy score with an action-packed sequence, and that's sort of the seed of the idea, or do they just sort of come from all over the place?
I'd say sort of all over the place. I think for this, we sort of started with cool action-packed jazzy sequence, like as the inspiration. Like I think Joshua and I discussed we really wanted to do something that was sort of like cinematic in its pacing almost. And then the rest of the ideas sort of came naturally. And I think that's pretty generally for me how it goes, where if you're like looking really hard for something you want to write, it's almost impossible to find something.
Yeah, that's always the way.
Yeah, and then when you're not looking for something, you're like, oh wow, wait, Uber heist.
So do you have a notes app or something where like you just keep a bunch of ideas like as you're walking along the street and thinking like, oh yeah, like this is a musical I should totally write?
Yeah, I've got a notes app full of like gibberish, just like probably 100 notes, no rhyme or reason. Each one, has like 4 words in it that I may or may not remember what they mean.
Totally. You mentioned BMI. Joshua, you just presented your second year project at the workshop. Congratulations. That's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you. All in the middle of this pandemic.
I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that. First of all, what was it that you adapted? What was it that you worked on?
I worked with someone else in the workshop, a very talented writer named AJ Freeman, and we worked on an adaptation. All second year projects are adaptations. So we worked on adapting a play called Hay Fever by Noel Coward, which is a comedy set in 1920s, the English countryside. It's about a very eccentric family who like 4 members in the family, basically, and each one of them invites a guest over to stay for the weekend. But they didn't ask each other, so they didn't know they were going to have 4 guests over the weekend. So hilarity ensues, and that's there's not much of a story. They kind of all, they're kind of all like each romantically in some way interested in whoever they invited. But at the end of the weekend, they all kind of end up, I don't know, mixing and matching.
Awesome.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's very fun, and it was very fun writing the music for it too. We kind of settled on. I wasn't, there wasn't like a real plan as to how I was going to do the music, but I kind of settled on something that kind of that's kind of like influenced by that time period, but also trying to do something with it, trying to spin it in in my own way. So we came up with we have like a somewhat jazzy comedic score, which is a lot of fun to write. And it's the kind of thing I really enjoy doing.
Your collaborator on that, AJ, she's super talented. Like,
she's super talented.
A mutual friend of ours. Like, she's just incredible. I watched the presentation. I didn't watch it live, but I saw it after and everything. And it was, man, it was just a fantastic work. So well done on them too.
Thank you,
Joshua. You were saying that although your presentation was happening as everything was shutting down. Had you gone to the Philippines by that point, or were you still in New York at that point?
Oh, I was here in the Philippines. I left when did I get here? I was here since March.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was actually like right before the. I actually left New York in the middle of the workshop without. This was before the pandemic. I was kind of like kind of exploring some other life trajectories, and I ended up leaving at the end of February because I had to for a few different reasons, and then the pandemic happened like a couple weeks later. So I was very sad to leave BMI at the time, but then since I left, there was only like one class where everyone else got to meet together back in the building, and then the rest of it was all on Zoom. So it was very strange. But it all worked out somehow, and we even got an extended month listening to each other's songs, and it was a little hard for me because the class it was 5 a.m. for me when the class was going on, so it was extra hard waking up early.
So let's talk about your process a little bit more. Something that really impressed me about this show, among many, many things that I was really impressed about your show, is about how there are these very fast rhythms that are going on. Like, it's really a very sort of like fast jazz, bebop-y sort of a style that happens. But the lyrics fit perfectly within that rhythm. I never got the sense that there was any sort of stumbling issues. I never got the sense that there was any sort of difficulty in just getting the words out. It reminds me about something that was said about the Gershwins, that Ira was called the jeweler for fitting perfect lyrics into George's fascinating rhythms, right? So is that how you sort of approach this process too, like how the Gershwins did, where you would have the music first that you would stick the perfect lyrics on top of, or was it a sort of more back and forth and more ambiguous sort of a process?
I think for this project, it was really like Josh and I would sort of discuss like the feel for a song and sort of an idea for a hook, and how we wanted it to flow basically, and then Josh went off and made, awesome melodies and, intricate piano parts. And then I sort of just like took that and like you said, sort of fit the lyrics to that, as best as possible. I think in some instances it was, I wanted to say more words than there were notes for, which,
always a problem.
Right, exactly. I need more words. So Josh is great about, editing the melodies to sort of fit that idea and extending phrases and stuff like that. So yeah, that's really how it worked. And I think that lended itself well to sort of like the quick and bebop-y rhythms and words in the show.
You've both worked with many other collaborators in your time. So Joshua, you worked with Kara Cutruzella on a project through the Lincoln Center's Across a Crowded Room program, along with working with AJ on your second year BMI project. Jared, you've worked with Christopher Anselmo a lot in the past, and your Pop Pot Fish has 4 credited book writers to it.
Yes.
How for both of you, do you find that your writing process changes depending on who your collaborators are or what role you're playing in that collaboration?
Yeah, for sure. It depends on who I'm collaborating with, but it also depends on the circumstances, I guess. I usually like getting lyrics first before I even do any music. I've find it easier, and I find that I come up with a lot more interesting music. Yeah, I don't know if that's actually true, but like with Kara, that was all lyrics first.
Yeah.
Just because that was just kind of the dynamic that I settled on with Kara, but also it kind of we felt that the show demanded it. I think because it was more like a play with songs, and there isn't much action in it. It's all two characters in a room together talking. So a lot of it like the words are. It's really all about the words, and I kind of just do what I can with the music. I think so. That worked fine for that project. But with a Getaway, that was more. Well, it was also because we don't have much time. and Jared, I think you specifically wanted me to do the music first. I think, which I was of course happy to do.
I tend to like that flow, that workflow, because it sort of the opposite of what Josh just said. But I feel like it lets me be more creative with the lyrics that I'm writing. I'm not a composer, but I have a strong musical background. So I'm sort of already thinking of melodies and stuff in my head when I'm writing rhythms and writing lyrics and how they scan and stuff. So it's great to sort of get the music first to sort of break me out of that pattern, sort of my defaults, my go-tos.
And constraints help you be more creative, right? I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
I certainly feel so. Like when I'm limited by certain constraints, like these are the words I have to work with, and it just lets me come up with a lot more interesting things than when I just I don't have any words, so I guess I'm just going to do 8 bars here and another 8 bars here. And
but so when I'm working with Chris Anselmo, for example, he's also a lyricist as well. So we sort of call it like a double collaboration. We both do music and lyrics in that regard, which means that there's just a lot more back and forth because we have opinions on everything, on everything that's happening.
Yeah, totally.
So the process is a little slower, but you end up sort of really, really thinking about every detail because you're really going back and forth over every minute of the song.
It's nice to have a second pair of eyes on every moment too.
Yeah, totally.
Speaking of Pout Pout Fish, my 5-year-old loves the book.
Oh, yeah.
They read it at school. I think we have at least 1 copy, maybe 2 copies here at home.
Amazing.
And I told her, I'm going to be talking to one of the writers of the musical. And she's just like, oh, Pout Pout Fish. Yeah, he's gloomy. I'm like, yeah, he's very gloomy.
Yes.
So for you listeners at home, Pout Pout Fish was a New York Times bestseller that Jared adapted into a New York Times Critics' Pick musical. How did your involvement with this musical come about?
Our involvement came about sort of through the New Victory Theater, which is where we ended up doing the Pout Pout Fish here in New York. My collaborator, Chris Anselmo, and I, we were working on a different project there through their LabWorks program, which is basically a program dedicated to, advancing projects for young audiences. And we submitted a project to them called Fountain, which is another musical that we're working on. We did a reading at the end of it, and sort of through word of mouth, we got introduced to TheaterWorks USA, which is a huge producer of TYA content and musicals.
Yeah.
We got introduced to them, and they were looking for writers for this Pout Pout Fish project, which was going to be a musical with puppets designed by Atchison Walsh Studios in New York. They're awesome. Look them up. And so we went through sort of a classic pitching spec song process where they asked us to write a few songs on spec for the Pout Pout Fish to get a sense of what our interpretation of the sound of that show would be. And we got the job. We were very grateful to get that gig. And then we wrote the show, and that was really fun. It was sort of quick and fast process, trial by fire. Almost because you write something and you think it's good and you think it's funny, and then you put it up on a stage in front of 1,000 elementary school students, and everything that you thought was going to kill flops completely.
Yeah, kids are a very honest audience.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If they don't like it, you know right away. If they love it, you know that right away too.
Right, exactly. It was a very, very fun and rewarding process, and a huge learning experience for us.
You mentioned writing songs on Spec.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what that process is like for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I've really only done it once or twice now, but if a producer or writers want to bring you onto a project, basically they ask you to write something, in some cases create a demo of that thing, to sort of see what your interpretation of the musical style of a
So it's like an
show.
audition for the writers.
Exactly. It's a writer's audition. And in this case, we were sort of influenced by classic rock in a way. So it's like it's the Pop Out Fish. He lives in the ocean. So we were thinking like Beach Boys and surf rock and, even Jimmy Buffett in
Nice.
certain ways. So we tried to like distill that into a Spec song that would really like show off what our idea for the musical would be.
In some ways, it's easier to write a whole musical because there's less pressure on any individual song to absolutely
Right,
nail
exactly.
it. You talked a bit about your musical Fountain. Something I found really intriguing about the musical just is the title alone. It's called Fountain, a New Musical Adventure.
Yes.
And I love that. It's such an interesting idea.
Well, I can give you the elevator pitch of what
I would love to have the elevator
what the
pitch.
show is
Thank
about. Fountain is a new musical adventure that explores the peculiar and perilous oddities of Florida through the eyes of a young girl as she hunts for the healing waters of the Fountain of Youth to save her ailing grandfather.
Excellent. I love it.
Yeah, so we put adventure in the title because really we're trying to create like this sort of grand and sweeping adventure through Florida that this young girl is going on to find the fountain, and she's going to different places and meeting different people, and we're trying to create action sequences. It's very cinematic in a way, sort of similar to the Getaway.
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out different ways, like how would you put a Pixar film on stage, basically.
Awesome. Hey, Joshua.
Hello.
So you've had a career as a classical composer since you left college. And by the way, listeners, go to Cerdenia.com to check out his awesome compositions. They are seriously good. That's CERDENIA.com. Why did you decide to make the shift over to musical theater?
Oh, I grew up on musical theater. That was that's something I did way before. I didn't compose for it, but I was kind of like really exposed to it. My first job was as an accompanist for a musical theater workshop here. I was like 12 years old, and I was like the first job I ever had for like a few months. I just played twice a week in a bunch of students doing a bunch of musical theater songs, and that was my.
So you're 12 years old and you're already accompanying for musical theater songs.
Yeah,
that's very early. Like, well done there.
Yeah, but it got harder. It got a lot harder from there.
Right.
But yeah, up until that point, I was just playing classical piano. That was kind of my gateway into the world of music, and it was that point that I got it was a lot of Sound of Music and Les Mis and that sort of thing, like all the classics. But I didn't get interested in more contemporary musical theater, I guess, until I got to college here, because I was because I was like I was kind of like when you play piano and or keyboard, you're kind of in demand, like for some reason, like when you're younger.
Yeah.
And from then on, I was just like playing in musicals all the time. But I didn't compose. I still wasn't composing at that point. After that, I decided maybe I want to study music seriously. But I went into classical, quote unquote, I guess it's the best word we have for it, like classical composing, because I wanted to write I wanted to do like orchestral music. I didn't. I was like, theater. I was like, maybe I want to do something a little I want to go higher a little bit, like aim a little higher.
Sure.
But I know. But I did that. I went to Singapore first. That was where I got my bachelor's of music. And I got a scholarship, so that was very hard to refuse. And then I did some time at Peabody in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided to go on to a master's at Juilliard, and that was how I ended up in New York. But honestly, I wasn't so happy with what I was doing. It was great, but it takes so much energy to write these pieces. You spend like months and months and months working on one piece, and it probably gets performed like once or twice if you're lucky.
Just that time scale never gets played again. The difference between the months and months working on a classical piece and like the week or two that you did the Getaway in, like that's a very different sort of
it's
that alone
very
says a lot about
different.
the two forms.
It's very different. And also you're also just expected to be really original and kind of, if not, you're expected to kind of like break new ground all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I always found that, what if I don't? What if I just want to write something nice? And I just want to write something nice that, people are going to want to listen to. It's not so much like that at Juilliard. People just pretty much just do their own thing. And I had a great teacher, Christopher Rouse, who passed away around a year ago, who was like, one of the American greats. Really very well known as an orchestrator, but that's what kind of like really what I gravitated towards, like writing music for orchestra.
Was there a moment then when you decided like, okay, I'm going to really sort of go for the musical theater writing, that I'm going to like put a focus there, that I'm going to get the training I need there?
Not yet. While I was not yet while I was at Juilliard. Although that was kind of always at the back of my mind. I kind of knew that someday I'd want to, come crawling back into its arms. Someday, I just didn't know when.
Sure, yeah.
But like right after I graduated, I ended up my first project straight after grad school was a commission for the Detroit Symphony, that sort of thing. So that was the kind of road that I thought I was on.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out like commissions like that are very, very few and far in between. And about a couple years into doing the New York artist thing, I was like, you know what? Why don't I do musical theater? I'm here. I'm in New York where it all happens, and I kind of have been wanting to do it for a long time. And then I heard about the BMI workshop. I hadn't even heard of it until that point. I just there must be something I can do here if I want to get into this.
Nice,
so I just looked it up. This was in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Found the BMI workshop. Oh, this sounds perfect, and it's free. It's 2 years. That's great. So I, but I hadn't really written any musical theater. Mm-hmm. So I was just, what do they need? They need 3 songs. They wanted what do they want? Like a comedy song,
a ballad, and a comedy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just wrote all of it on my own. And I spent a month just okay, I'm gonna write 3 songs. How hard could it be?
Right.
turns out it's very hard. But I got past the initial screening, and I don't even know how many applicants they take in. So that's a whole mystery to me, or how many people they audition.
Mm-hmm.
So. But in the end, I auditioned. I went in and sang all the songs myself and played it on their very loud piano.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was. I did not have fun doing that. But then I got a call the next day, and then I think it was just the next day.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't a call. It was just an email. Just got an email. Yeah. I got in. Oh, cool. I got in. Now I'm doing this, and I don't have to write my own lyrics because I got in as a composer. So I applied as it's not my strong suit. But after my audition, the Rick was asking me. Rick just asked me, so you'd be okay with doing music or lyrics, right? And I was just no, I don't want to do lyrics. I'm gonna do music. But fortunately, they got me as a composer, and I wasn't going to do lyrics, and I was going to get someone else to. No, I was going to get lyricists finally, and that was all I'd been wanting.
Awesome. On your website, you say that some of your early musical influences were Japanese film and video game music. Your early work experience, like we've talked about, and your current training is in musical theater music. And the score for The Getaway is very jazzy, and you've got all of this sort of classical composition background. Is the stylistic diversity something that you naturally fall into, or is it something you actively seek out, or is it a little bit of both?
Probably a little bit of both. Like, I kind of do it on purpose, but I also don't go out of my way. I just kind of do what I'm comfortable with.
Awesome, great.
So maybe I'm comfortable with all of those. Like, the jazzy stuff is not something that comes that naturally. Actually, like, I'm not a jazz pianist or anything. I don't have a background in it. That comes from I had like a really big Jason Robert Brown phase.
Yeah,
it was kind of like one of the main reasons. It's kind of like one of my biggest influences. Like, wanted to write musical theater, and especially as a pianist too. You play his stuff, you kind of
it's a blast
really get a feel
through,
for it. Yeah, it's a blast to play. Yeah, it's such a blast, and it's challenging, but it's also, it comes very naturally to the hands. Like, it falls really, unlike, say, Adam Gettle, where it's just really hard and you can't. I can't play it, but JRB sounds very hard, but it's actually like really natural.
Jared, you are a Northwestern University alum.
Yes.
I am too.
Yeah,
awesome.
Go Cats.
I was in the theater department, but I was hanging out with music a lot because I had a music theater certificate. I had a music composition minor. I took a lot of conducting things.
Awesome.
So Dr. Ryan Nelson, huge mentor over there.
Me too. Yeah, for me too.
Yeah, great. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, he's great.
He's awesome.
Patrick Holland was playing in those days. I think that he's not there anymore, but Melissa Foster, Kurt Hansen. This is just me shouting out to all the great professors over.
Yes, Kurt Hansen also. He was my voice teacher.
Yeah, awesome.
I came in as a vocal performance major.
Yeah.
And then.
And you started with Kurt as your teacher.
Yeah, I started with Kurt. It was fantastic. Yeah. And then about a year or two in, I told Kurt that I didn't know if I wanted to do vocal performance, and he was super supportive, and I sort of found other passions and interests in writing musicals instead, and spend more time in the theater department. But yeah, I was a music major there.
You created your own program, somewhere between music and media, yes?
Yeah. So one of the cool things that they have in the music school there is you can create an ad hoc major, basically. Mm-hmm. So I created something that was specifically tailored to my interest, which was called music and media, which was just vague enough that I could take all the classes that I wanted. But it was, just figuring out the different ways that music plays a role in theater and in film and in television. So that was really cool for me because I was able to take classes in, the film with film majors, and I was able to take classes about music in Western films and also take classes in musical theater writing that they offered in the theater program, and that all sort of fed back into my ad hoc major of music and media.
Is that when the shift was sort of happening from you being like music performance major into writing the words for musicals?
Yeah, I think it started around there. I grew up doing this awesome program in Fort Lauderdale, Florida called the Lovewell Institute for the Creative Arts, which is a summer workshop where students brainstorm, they conceive, write, and perform an original musical in 3 weeks.
Awesome.
And I did that like all growing up. Some of my best friends in the world I met there. So that, I think that was sort of the inspiration for wanting to write musicals as a career.
Cool.
When I got to college, I did a lot more performing. I wasn't a voice major anymore, but I did a lot of performing in the theater program, a lot of shows. I love, being on stage. It's so rewarding. But I sort of didn't really find my rhythm of writing for musicals until a bit later on in my college career.
Was any part of that through the WAMU show?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Talk about the WAMU show. What is the WAMU show?
The WAMU show is the nation's premiere. I don't know. Premiere? I don't know. It's an.
I remember premiere being in the title. Yeah,
something like that. It's just an all student written musical that they do at Northwestern. That's led by the heads of the theater department there, and it sort of grew from a review on like student life, songs about what it's like to be in college, to like an actual book musical that they were writing every year.
I remember the year when they shifted over to a book musical, but I didn't know if that was a one-off thing or if that was hey, every year we're going to write a real book musical.
Yeah, I think every year they're writing a real book musical.
Wow, good for them.
Which is really cool because it's a great experience in terms of like collaboration and working with people to like craft a narrative and tell a story. So totally a formative experience, and a lot of former WAMU writers are now BMI people and are in New York making a living doing music and lyrics. So it's very cool.
Totally. So what are you working on right now?
Yeah, so right now I'm just focusing on, working on Fountain. Chris and I are meeting on Zoom weekly to sort of suss that out and keep that growing, which is really fun and really fulfilling. Working on really just trying to develop new ideas, basically. I know we kind of touched on that earlier, that it's sort of impossible to sit down and be like, I'm going to write something new. And without just being struck with inspiration first. Yeah, that's sort of what the future holds right now. Honing the craft.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to sit down with you, talk about your show, and produce your show.
Thank you so much. It was amazing to sort of hear this all come to life and have, the talented team behind Bite Size Broadway bring it all to life.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Hey, creative professionals and business owners, looking to up your content game? Need a little boost to help complete your latest creative project? Have a great idea but no idea how to make it happen? Let Evan Feist Coaching and Consulting and his over 15 years of experience in media and extensive network work for you. Head to www.evanfeist.com today for a free consultation.
Next time on Bite-Sized Broadway. Exhausted from trying to get a reimbursement from her insurance company, Michelle makes a bet with her husband Bill that he can't do any better. Little does he know that the most terrifying thing in the world is on the other end of the phone, the American healthcare system.
Your premiums were small, but your deductible was high, and the bill is filled with charges that you can't identify. But it all adds up, just trust me, the numbers justify.
Journey with Bill as he attempts to get through to customer service, navigate billing codes, and dodge bill collectors, all in the hopes of one day receiving that $10,000 check in this charming and hilarious satire.
The last one on the list is for the radiologist. The final charge I see for you that day. The code is rather odd, C36.4, my God.
Blue Cross Blues opens October 19th right here on Bite-Sized Broadway. Thank you for joining us for this premiere episode of Bite-Sized Broadway. And if you find yourself a little hungry for a theatrical snack, we've got 9 more mini musicals waiting in the wings. So subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave us a 5-star review. A quick shout out and special thanks to Evan Feist and Jay Rosen for their work on this episode. I'm Jonathan Lynch, and that's it for this week's episode of Bite-Sized Broadway. See you next time.
Bite-Sized Broadway is an IndieWorks theater production, created by Jonathan Lynch. Executive producers Christopher Michaels and Jeremy Terry. Produced by Jonathan Lynch and Andrew Fox. Bite-Sized Broadway's theme and finale were composed and performed by Michael Paré Jr. For more information on this and other IndieWorks programming, please visit www.indieworkstheater.com. Like and follow us on social media at IndieWorksCo. Stand by, main curtain. Main curtain, go!